Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. We're here. We're back at it again, and we're going to get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. With that being said, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Organic herbs and botanicals, skincare and edibles, wellness for body and mind. The Brothers Apothecary. Fine teas and remedies. Ronald Records. From indie gems to classic hits, discover the heart of local music. With live shows all the time, up close and personal, and regular releases on their in-house label. Ronald Records. Supporting the community, one track at a time. All right, thank you all so much for watching. Again, shout out The Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guest.
Hey everyone, I am Playboi Brando.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us.
How are you?
Oh, just another day at the office. Glad to have you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, who you are, where you're from, what you do. Give us that Tinder profile of your involvement with music.
That's a funny way to put it. Well, I'm 19 years old. I am from Eugene, Oregon, so just a little ways from here, but I made the drive. I really like the
short
show.
Trip. Thank you.
And I make a lot of different kinds of music, but recently I've kind of honed in on the Southern Memphis flows, the Memphis rap. If you know names like 3 6 Mafia and some Juicy J and a little bit of the Prophet Posse, Project Pat, is some of the stuff that I grew up on.
No, I think that covers pretty much the intro well. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what got you started in music initially?
To be honest, it's probably just my mom drugged me in the car everywhere, and I hated the top 40. It was awful. It just... pattern recognition brain, so you hear the same topic enough times, which is funny because I'm a rapper, right? But you hear the same thing enough times and enough voices that sound the same, you start getting right? And then my father kind of introduced me into some more of the heavy metal, so like the Metallicas and the Motorheads and AC/DCs, and like Judas Priest.
Yeah, all the classics.
Yeah. Big on the 80s metal and butt rock and stuff like that. But what truly kind of did it in for me was band music, like being a band kid at school. I was just good with the instruments and I had fun doing that, whereas I didn't really enjoy going to the rest of school. It just wasn't as entertaining for me.
I can totally understand that. What was the first one you played in band?
So the first instrument I learned how to play was the French horn, and I still have one.
Okay, hell yeah. Has it made an appearance in any of your tracks?
Yes, it has. Nice. You can't quite tell because the French horn is one of those things that kind of can sound like a lot of different things. Yeah. But one song that I hear the French horn in a lot is it's a mix of the trumpets and the French horn, but it's the Superheroes and Villains song by Metro Boomin and Future.
Yeah.
It's that one's the trumpet, but when they get farther on into the song, you can kind of hear it when they bring both together. From there, I moved on to the flute, and then because that's a different kind of instrument, you don't like buzz into it necessarily. You like blow over it like a soda bottle, you might. And from there, then I was like, you know what? The French horn's very similar to a lot of the other 3-valved instruments, so I just started grabbing one and messing with it. And once you've listened to enough music and then played enough music, eventually it becomes a point where it's just like a hallucination in your head, if that makes any sense. Like when you're doing a scale, is da 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 da. I mean, I'm not pitch perfect by any means, but I know where it's supposed to be in my head. So that's probably where it all actually like really started. if you're looking for like a breaking point on where things like actually went into me making my own stuff, COVID-19. It's it's like the magic bullet, isn't it?
It definitely it has been a quintessential moment for a lot of people.
Yeah.
For sure, especially kind of in not so much your age range, but just like people who have like more recently been doing music kind of as a bigger spot.
So COVID-19 affected me like this. I didn't go to high school for 3 or 4 years. I'm 19 now, and I only went to my senior year. And even then, I skipped most of it. So, the biggest thing there was trying to find something that took time, and to find something that I enjoyed doing, so that I'd keep doing it. And I'm also kind of just a little bit of that want to be the center of attention kind of person. I'm not gonna lie. I enjoy being praised for what I do. But I also enjoy doing it a lot more. And the intricate aspects of learning how to use a compressor and then using an EQ, and then like, what can I do to completely destroy this sound and then build it back into something that's listenable again. Like breaking the rules and experimentation are a big part of at least how I make my music. If you wanted to get more specific, you might have to ask me some more questions.
No, totally. We'll definitely dive into a little bit more of those kind of in the middle part. And we're going to go into what you're doing more with music presently in just a moment. But I do have a couple of foundation questions I like to check in with everybody on.
Right.
And this first one, it's one we ask early, it's one we ask often, and it's definitely a crowd favorite. What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
So I'm a little young to be like in the buying of the albums, but hey, I grew up in like this cool little era where I have an older brother who was into like all that stuff, right? So I got a little bit of the CDs, a little bit of the tapes, a little bit, not so much the vinyls, but I still own some and I have them on my walls. The first one that I wanted, Ride the Lightning, Metallica.
Okay, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And then number 2 would be Master of Puppets.
Nice.
And then after that, I went into a bunch of other like Dark Side of the Rainbow or Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd and The Wall.
Yeah.
And there's one other one, Rumors, Fleetwood Mac.
Okay. Yeah. Damn. So yeah, you had some of the quality names right in the beginning there.
Those are the first 4, yeah.
Yeah. And then what was one of the first live shows you ever went to that was like specifically one you wanted to go to? So like you saw it was happening, got tickets, went to it.
Got you. This one's going to be a hard one. I was fortunate enough to have parents who liked to go to music shows, but it wasn't anything crazy. The first one I wanted to go to, and there might be a little hate on this, Playboi Carti. And so I know I'm Playboi Brando, but that Playboi Carti show, if you were to ask, would have been the breaking point. I went with a couple of buddies, but they weren't like close friends. We just kind of hitched a ride and got up there. And I think what you were saying earlier a little bit off camera about how music is perceived the wrong way now. Not every song has to be about something crazy.
Yeah.
Not every song has to be this intricate story of this and that, and there's a beginning, middle, and end, right? Some songs just are appealing to the ear, and you just like the way that they sound, or they said something that really resonated with you, or maybe it gives off the kind of vibe that you would like, right? So when I went there, I fought my way to the absolute rail. There's videos online still that I have up of me on the rail at that concert, and it was when Whole Lotta Red just came out. So that's when Playboi Carti went from the weird like and then went into like actual metal. Yeah, and he like Kanye West did the last kind of mix and master on that album, and he put in these guitar intros where the songs wouldn't just start with the bass. Yeah. That somebody came on stage and actually shredded the melody on actual electric guitar, and then it would build up into the actual song. So it was like something new with something that you already kind of knew, right? Because he put out the album a little bit before the tour, and we all kind of got a taste. But I really enjoyed how he brought the I want to say the headbanging of metal into rap. Yeah. And then like mix the two, and it was done beautifully. I mean, I don't like every song on that album, but there's a couple of them that I still listen to this day, every day. Hell yeah. So that was the breaking point. I wanted to be on the other end of that every day. Yeah. All day, every day. Just rocking.
Hell yeah, no, I dig that. And actually, funny enough, usually the next question here is, what is your defining moment? But you've covered that so well. And I guess those questions lump into each other. So thank you for sharing that. It sounds like a really rad experience.
It was really fun.
Hell yeah. But now let's go ahead and let's get on into you and the present day.
Okay.
We're going to get a super easy one out of the way first, though.
Okay.
How'd you pick the name?
So one of my favorite movies is The Godfather. All three of them, obviously. And The Godfather's son is Marlon Brando, the Playboy. And the brand's kind of just been around in my life, and obviously like the Hugh Hefner stuff came out and whatnot.
Yeah.
I'm not there for the brand itself.
Yeah.
It's the image they give off instead. It's like a statement piece. When you see somebody walking around with a Playboy on, usually there's somebody who's of this like upper echelon kind of dealio. So I wanted to be a part of that in a way. I mean, some people call it biting. I'm trying to paint a picture for you. That's really it. But
sounds like it's just like kind of a visual association.
More so,
or maybe not association is not the right word, but like a correlation. Like, there's an essence, there's an element that is perceived with this imagery.
So there was when I picked the name, I mean, I dropped my first song like a week after that concert. So of course there was just a little bit of that, you know what I'm saying? But I go by many other names now. So there's Playboi Brando, and then there's Brando Commando, and then there's Playboy Hades, and then there's like some people just call me Brando, but at this point, I'm so far down the catalog that I just don't want to change it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not a bad name or anything like that. And I mean, shoot, look at Lil Wayne. He's got 1,000 different names.
Tucci.
And just so like you're always going to know who it is. I think it's more important once people can decide who like the sound is by the sound. Or I guess who the song is by the sound. That's when you've really kind of made the staple anyways.
Right.
And I'm going to touch on that a little bit later on about kind of your general sound, but I do have a couple questions I want to get through first.
Okay.
And this right now we're going to focus on your creation process. So like how do you go about making music? And we're going to start right at the beginning.
Okay.
So when you get inspired, you're ready to make music. What are some of the things you do to get a track started?
See, I've been working on being more consistent about making music lately, because if you look back in the discography, you know, I've been at it 4 years, but I took 6 month breaks and couldn't find what I wanted to do exactly. When I first start a song, it usually has nothing to do with writing, nothing to do, more so just sound selection. So, like, if I'm walking around the house and I drop a fork onto the toaster or something and it makes a weird noise, but, like, that noise, if you were to manipulate, it could turn into something that's more fun. But when I'm doing this Memphis funk stuff, which is what I'm doing right now, which is what I'm super into, it's listening to some of my favorite songs that I grew up with and then chopping up the vocals and crunching them and getting them to a... kind of a catchy place. So I guess it would probably start more with sound selection and beats. I do make some of my own, but I mostly have people around me who send me stuff, and then I ask them to change it a little bit. I've occasionally used YouTube beats and stuff like that, but leasing's annoying. And a lot of the time, the producer actually stole the sample, so you're paying for nothing.
Fair. Or it's like they're hard to get a hold of, or like building around it and you're ready to buy it, they like disappear suddenly.
Yeah.
It's like,
or they sell your song to 3 other people.
Yeah, and then they just don't say anything because they're like, what are you going to do once they disappear? You can't get a hold of them. But also, I think that with how many people there are that are physically making beats and creating stuff right now, that approach is the better option anyways. Like being able to have somebody nearby that you can be like, hey, I love 90% of this. I just need you to change this 10% to make it exactly what I need. Yeah.
There's a lot of what I would call orthodox beats out there. You know, people who follow a normal 808 pattern and the clap and the hi-hats are all filled in and the claps on every other. And, that's just not very exciting to me.
No.
So I'm one of those people, I mean, I don't want to say like self-diagnosis, but I have to have the headphones in all day.
Yeah.
I can't function without them. I mean, right now we're having a conversation that I'm engaged in, so this is very interesting to me, right? But like if I'm just doing what I used to do for work, which was writing down inventory at a dealership, that's no fun.
No.
No fun, especially for a creative to do the same crap over and over again. So the music was kind of a way to get away from that and also kind of entertain myself. So when I'm making a song, it's got to have what I like to call X factor. And I'll probably say X factor quite a few times today because it has to do with the people I work with as well. There's a certain kind of like love care in a song that has X factor. So sure, a lot of rap does sound somewhat similar, but maybe example, the superhero and villains tape, they they kind of brought in like Chris Brown and a lot of the older people to make like half a song that was rap and half a song that almost came out like R&B maybe. And I really respected that. And then especially what I was saying about the Cardi concert I went to in 2020 where Kanye had added those instrumental pieces at the beginning where it was blending two things that I enjoy into one that actually sound really good together. And now I lost kind of where I was.
No, yeah, I'll go. Yeah, you were talking about the X factor.
The X factor, yes.
Actually, would you just be able to take a quick second and like define the X factor, if you could, as like a sentence or two?
Yeah, I like to use an analogy to give off X factor. So this has been my experience. I don't know if this is everyone's experience. When I make myself food, it's because I'm hungry. But say your mom makes you a very nice home-cooked meal and invites you over for it and you eat it and it's just so much better than anything you could have made yourself. And I like to say it's the TLC, it's the tender loving care. It's that because the person sat there and decided each bit of it. And they wanted a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And but also I think it's kind of like a pride and seriousness thing. If you don't take yourself seriously, no one else is going to take you seriously. So and there's a couple different things that go into it, what I would say X factor, but it's mostly just like a piece of uniqueness.
Yeah.
I mean that can go positive or negative, but it's generally just something that has something that's unique.
Yeah, a layer of substance.
Yes, substance, particularly. So like if you bring people in here in the interview and they give you like a one sentence answer to everything, that's not a whole lot of substance, right? Like you don't get a whole lot of personality out of that.
You know, I'm going to say yes and no to you on that one. And I'm not going to take the time to explain it here, but
I wasn't going after
anybody.
Interesting
Interesting moment that I'll share with you off camera that kind of would almost seem to the contrary, but it's a really cool concept. But I don't want to run through too much of my stuff on your interview, and I do want to get back into this. So let me navigate us to the second part of this music creation question.
Right.
So actually before I do, when it comes to lyrics and things like that, do you freestyle? Do you do pen and paper? How do you go about that?
I have a little bit of both. So when I first started making music, I couldn't freestyle at all. Not at all. I think it was the stress of trying to do it on the spot was brain blocking me. But as I started writing more and more and more, I started seeing all the patterns of how poetry lines up and how different flows can kind of intertwine into each other instead of just staying on the same one the whole song. I started a lot with writing every song out before I even started, but then they got bland and orthodox. There wasn't any substance there.
Yeah.
It just felt like a song I was singing. But I have a lot more fun when I start by writing something that I like, or I think of something that I like.
Yeah.
So I'm just going about my day and somebody says something funny to me and I give them a funny response and I'm like, whoa, wait, hold on. That's like kind of a bar, dude.
Yep.
And then I go write it down on my phone. And then occasionally when I come to the studio, or for me, it's just the upstairs of my house, but I go up there and I'll pull out the book and I'll completely have forgotten about stuff that I've written. And then it just like opens up a whole nother door. Like, cause I use this word and then you can kind of, especially in Memphis, you can kind of slur into like, hey man. And then like you kind of, the cadence of it changes the actual rhyme.
Yeah.
And
so the Wisconsin's of it all.
You can take one word up here and it's all technically the same rhyme. It does not, the first one does not rhyme with the last one.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the fun stuff I've been doing lately when it comes to songwriting, is starting with something. Then once I actually have it down and like a kind of a rough EQ mix on it, what happens is I start to hear the rest of the song without it actually being there.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying about the hallucinative like part of it. Maybe I just did too many mushrooms as a teenager. Like, I don't know.
I mean, I think once you put in enough effort, musical foresight kind of comes with the process. Like, you know, once you're familiar with it, it becomes a little easier to see what can happen.
I mean, that even happens to me with like mainstream songs.
Yeah.
Like, I just listened to The New World Depression by Suicide Boys because they're the king of the Memphis genre right now. not my favorite thing in the world, but there was a couple songs that I actually really, really liked. But there was that aspect of they did something differently than what I would have done.
Mm-hmm.
But I heard it like I heard the way I would have done it in my head. And I was like, interesting. They chose that note instead of this note, or they didn't flow switch there, or like there's just little bits and pieces. I don't want to get too on the details because some people don't know, but
I mean, I think that's a big part of it, especially since you do make a lot of the parts of the music for yourself.
Right.
Like that just, like I said, that kind of comes with the process. Like once you start to do, like I'm really big on stand-up comedy. That's kind of like when I'm not doing this.
Right.
Like aside from music, stand-up comedy is my other thing. And I watched a show called Kill Tony. And one thing I like to do, because it's a bunch of random comedians that get drawn out of a bucket, when they're doing their minute, I like to try and guess where the premise is going to go. I like to see if I can come up with the punch, or even come up with a more fun one.
To predict,
just not to be like, oh, they didn't do what I did, so they're not this or that, but just because it's fun. It's fun to see like, oh, like my brain says that the thing that would happen after this is this, and then you get the benefit of being like, oh, it wasn't that, it was this, and oh, I never would have thought of it. Oh, I never would have thought of this. Or you could be like, I liked mine better. Yeah. And you have this new it's kind of like, it's just like an exercise. It's like doing Sudoku. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I would agree with that.
Yeah. But again, this isn't too much about me, and we're going to get back to you on this. And I guess for this next question, once you get a track finished writing, so it doesn't have to be out, it doesn't have to be like released per se. Once you finished writing it, how long does it usually take you to get comfortable to the point where you feel like you could perform it?
So this is going to be a hard question, because there has been some songs that were just like out of the heart and soul, and were just drilled in there right from when I made them. But then there's other songs that some people would argue would be better, but maybe I don't feel so personally tied to. Maybe it was something that I made for an experiment kind of dealio, rather than something that I really wanted to represent me with. Yeah. So, I mean, the answer kind of varies, but for the songs that I've just made like this last week, I would say after I listened to them for about a week straight, I was pretty confident in going on a stage with them, like I might do tonight.
Gotcha.
I'm doing the Chris Travis show in Portland. I think I explained that to you. So I'm kind of hitching a ride so I can get two things done at once. But yeah, the songs that I'm planning on doing tonight, I've been listening for about a week. Okay. But I'm about to drop an album, so I wanted to tease the audience with that, even though they don't really know who I am, if that makes any sense.
I mean, I think that can still be a point of like note if someone's like, oh shoot, I really like this guy's sound. They go on your Spotify, they're like, wow, he put out a song today. Yeah. And then I remember him at the show saying he's going to be putting out a new album soon. He just put an album out last month. Like,
and you're right.
I got to catch up on this.
Sneak single out this morning.
Yep. Oh, I'm very aware. I'm very aware. I've definitely got some notes and things pertaining to your music itself. And actually, we'll go ahead, and if you're all right with that, we'll segue into talking about some of your music.
That's fine with me.
So I went on your Spotify. You got music going back to 2021, and it's a ton of music.
It's a lot.
You got a grip. I mean, you got 5 albums, countless EPs and singles, not to mention a grip of features. You've worked with a bunch of people. But one thing that I thought was really interesting is that your sound got progressively better. Usually when I'm listening to people who have had a wide range, there's this line. You can tell like, that's when they figured this out. That's when they figured that out. But going all the way from the beginning to now, there's so many small incremental steps that are always happening to the point where it feels very fluid. It feels like every single time you were trying something different, you were trying to like feel out a new sound. You weren't afraid to try different sounds. Yeah. Things like that. And what I noticed is that even though you have this wide range of stuff, you've always kind of had a you style. Like it's very distinct is what I would call it. And that's harder to do, like you said earlier, in the genre you're in. Right. It's very easy to kind of go with the tropes, go with the narratives, go with the things that are already there. So to have an element that stands out within that it's noticeable. It's notable. It's really cool. I appreciate that a lot. And I mean, even your most recent album, which usually, I like to talk about the most current thing, and the 541 Compound is really good. Don't get me wrong. But I already made notes about Walmart Suicide, so I'm going to say that instead. Okay. And I'll say this, it's not a huge album. No. But every beat has its own feel. You give each track its own characteristic, and it doesn't, even though it's not, 20 songs, it has this journey to it, this element that makes it feel like a full listen, which I think is arguably more important when it comes to album composition in general, which is a little bit of a lost art in today's approach to music.
A lot of people do single after single after single after single after single, and I think it just looks cluttered.
I get the reasoning behind it on an algorithmic level.
Yeah, see, the social media just never worked out for me.
No, I mean, trust me, I'm not.
You're in the same place, yeah.
If anybody goes and looks at my Instagram, they'll see there's one reel for the episode as kind of like a, here's your token for being here.
Yeah.
But no, it's I think the need to make stuff to only exist on social media so that people will click on the things instead of noticing the craft. It's something that's diluting things at the moment. It's not going to be forever.
No.
It's not going to be.
I think there's going to be a good little crash where
for sure,
the people who aren't serious fall off. But
I think more it's that it eventually, we are fortunate enough to be in a time where audiences are starting to get smarter.
Yes.
But not so much that they are dumb and now they are intelligent. They're coming smarter to the process. They are more aware of the care, the time, and the steps involved.
Right.
You go back 20 years ago, nobody knew what a microphone did. Nobody was like, oh, if you take that and plug it into this, you can get this and that. It was just one of those things where it's like, now people are so much more aware of the process.
Well, I think it's because it's gotten a lot. The bar has dropped for price on what it costs to make a song.
Accessibility in general.
Yeah, the accessibility, 100%.
Yeah. And so I think that we are now just getting to a point where the people who are receiving music are able to know more of what goes into it. And so right now, everybody is like, oh, well, I got to put out a single every Friday because that's when it releases. That's when it gets the most this, when it goes most that. But I think what we're eventually going to find is once that becomes stale, once people get so tired of that part of it, they're really going to move back to just creations of bodies of work for the art. And that is
just of art,
yeah. And music is now so much more accessible to make that the pendulum swung so far one way that it was just, here was everybody trying to be one person doing all the things. And that has now failed. That is not loved in the way that it used to be. But because of that, so many companies who make music things tried to create all these things that can be run by one person entirely.
Right.
So now when you have 3 or 4 people, they can create this almost symphonic experience. They can now make something that sounds like 10, 12 people comfortably. So this new layer of experience for music, once we get back to a more collaborative moment, is going to be expanded upon and received audibly in such a way that is going to change our perception of music.
I wanted to add a little thing on that.
I'm sorry, I've talked for so long.
No, you're good. I didn't know if you wanted to jump to the next thing or not, but
please.
Either way. So right before Walmart Suicide, I dropped Players Never Die with Harry Snow. That was a collab album. Me and him are on every single song. Came over for a whole week and did that. But what I was going to say is that exactly. So Harry makes a lot of his own music as well, start to finish like I do. And being able to sit down with someone who actually did everything from start to finish like I did was like I was staring myself in the mirror. And a lot of people say that we sound similar and they confuse which verse is mine and his. But the collaborative piece that you were talking about is huge. Just being able to do that many different things because I know what I've worked on. I learn a new effect or style or something every time I open the program. But he's gone a whole nother direction and he has a whole other arsenal of tools and things like that he can use. And so then when we're sitting there and we're listening back to our song after we're done, we're doing our takes and whatnot, and we're just tweaking things, maybe taking out a beat here, adding a stutter there. He could be like, oh, like for example, there's in the... We did this a couple times on the album. There's an effect where it kind of sounds like the old school echo effect, like on a karaoke machine. It's like, oh, yeah, like that. And I had heard that out of some underground Memphis song, and I showed it to Harry, and he was like, "Oh, dude, I know exactly how to do that." And I was like, "Okay, cool."
Yeah.
And so we threw it on the ad libs on that song, "Pop My Shizzle," and yeah, dude, it's just. I'm explicit. I'm not going to sing it, but every once in a while you hear it in the background. It goes, "Bow," but it's like that.
Yeah,
like chopped up, like the bow.
No, totally. And I think that's kind of an important part to take away. I'm glad you touched on that because it's crazy how many ways there are to get to one point. Like, especially in music, like how you learn an approach, how you learn a technique can be so vastly different to create the same thing. And then when someone goes, oh, you know, I do that, but I do it this way. And you're like, I'd never thought of that. Yeah. And it's not so much that you even have to do that way afterwards, but then you now get to sit there and go, oh, well, based off of what they did, if I combine the two approaches, you get a whole new experience afterwards that like neither of you taught each other that moment of creation, but you each shared your own learning. And because of it, something new comes out of it for both of you, because they also get to take away what you did and take what they remember of it and try it their way. And so it's not like anybody stole anything from anybody. It's just now you have not only two new approaches to try, but you're going to get a third outcome for both of you that then later when you get back together again, you can be like, hey, based off of what you showed me, I started doing this. And they can be like, oh, well, what you showed me, I did this. And it can still be two completely different things. Yeah. And so that's kind of the beauty of music as a whole.
I think so. I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
What was the
but yeah, I was saying usually during and I'm glad we broke it up a little bit because it's still a lot of me talking for a moment, but I always do this bit where I pick out a personal track that I enjoyed.
Okay.
You have a lot of music.
There is a lot.
It was so much music, I could not pick one.
There's like 103.
Yeah. I picked 3.
All right.
And I'm not going to go big long on the explanations, but the first one I picked was the Withdrawals interlude off of 1101. Because it was just so tough. It just had this feel to it. And I'm a big fan of like heavier moments in things. I don't need whole albums of that. Although Grim Salvo and Witch House 40K's new album is phenomenal. So if you like heavier stuff, really good.
You want to like write it down later for me?
Yeah, I'll send it to you when we're done with this. It's really good. But the second one I picked was Perplexed.
Oh.
And because it was so smooth and it was so chill. And for earlier on, like I felt you had really taken that approach in Floating in Space. That didn't quite have what Perplexed had. And I felt like that was really... that just had this like this feeling to it, this emotion that for being earlier on in the catalog, I think like really defined something.
So both of those songs both had a very very serious implications for it. I don't know if you want to know the background. I don't mind sharing at all because I tell people all the time about this.
Yeah,
I mean, kind of a well-known thing. I went through a very hardcore drug phase during COVID. Went all the way down to fentanyl.
Oof.
Yeah, all the way there. And so the Withdrawal song is quite literally me withdrawing. So yeah, I was just upset and didn't know what to do about it. But I am since very clean, about 2 years now. So that is the story of that. But as for Perplexed, I was having some relational issues related to my drug problem. And you're looking at her; she's in the room with us. But that song's about her.
Gotcha.
And you know, I spent some time trying to figure myself out, and I was just confused. It's a song about why do people do the things that they do. Sometimes you don't know, but you just got to go with the flow.
Yeah,
you got to do what you feel is right.
Well, I think that, I mean, thank you for sharing that, first of all. That is very, very open moments. But I think that almost is more, that is yet again another testament to like your attention, your care to the music, because to be able to take those moments and translate them into things that I think are outstanding again, all of your music is really good. It's really well defined.
Thank you.
But like those are a couple of the tracks that I think really stood out to me. And now hearing that, it's almost more of a reason for me to want to pick them because there's something in them and it stands out well in your sound.
Thank you.
But the last one I picked out was Cloud 9.
Oh,
and it's just such
a good one.
Yeah, off of your self-titled album, which props for not making your first album your self-titled one.
Yeah.
That's one that should matter. Like, I think when you take the self-titled name, it should be kind of a good example album. And that track in particular, I think, is a great example of your sound.
That is so funny.
Yeah. At least like from just what I've perceived of a lot of your stuff.
Right. So I believe in psychedelics for kind of a therapy kind of dealio. That's what I was saying. I was like, maybe I did too many mushrooms when I was a teenager. But I was really interested into listening to music while doing psychedelics because that was a big thing, and at least the culture I grew up in. People were like, oh my God, you need to listen to this song while doing blank.
Yeah.
And I had realized that there was a lot of my fan base who was also in that kind of struggling era, and they were looking for a way out. And I wanted to make a song that was, one, really cool if you had just listened to it, sober and in your straight head. It still has a great sound to it.
Yeah. I mean, that's where I was when I listened to it. So
yeah,
can agree.
But when I went for the full reverse and then like throwing the wispy vocals on top of the reverse and then bringing it all back in at the end, that was like I don't know, that's exactly where I was. Like, that's where I was in my life when I made that song. It was like starting out one way and then going the full 180 and then bringing it all back together for a clean finish.
Gotcha.
Was there anything you wanted to say particularly? I might be able to help you a little bit more.
No, like I said, for these, I didn't have too big a breakdowns because I went so long in the parts before, but those are just 3 tracks that I thought, like I said, really stood out to me that I like enjoyed on like a structural level for a lot of reasons.
So the first 2 were very emotionally heavy for me, but Cloud 9 was one of those songs that I genuinely was like throwing the paint on the canvas and then like tearing it down and then put my foot in a bucket and tripping and falling and then it was one of those like montages of the person like the Rocky like on a mission dealio. You know what I'm saying? Like that song was truly where I got to sit there and I had all the tools. I understood how to make the music at that point, where I had all the tools to do exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
There was a lot of times before where I couldn't get a sound because I just didn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of gatekeepers on the internet. You can find a lot of good stuff on YouTube, but when it comes down to really getting it, like it just takes time.
Yeah. Well, then, like I said, I think that sums up my description of it perfectly because, like I said, I really feel like it is, having listened to a lot, I listen to pretty much everything you have.
Wow.
And
props to you. That's
I think
a lot.
It is definitely a fair amount, but I think that track is a good example of the things. It's not obviously not everything because you've done stuff since, you've done stuff before that you didn't quite continue to do after, but I think it is a good benchmark track. If somebody wants to get a good feel of your capabilities of sound, it's a good example track.
I agree.
It's a good, it's almost like a good, not like if you had to elevator pitch a song, I'm sure you have ones that are more current that you would lean towards.
Yeah.
That's not a bad one to have in the like arsenal.
Yeah. That's one of the ones I want to do tonight.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, this will have come out after that, but y'all are in for, if you missed it, you missed it. I do want to give one honorable mention to 1877 Cash Now. Because I can't believe you flipped that into a track and made it a solid track. Like, it's actually kind of a fun jam. And so when I heard it, I had to bring it up.
That song is the funniest story. And please let me tell it.
Oh, please, yes.
Please. Okay, so this is like not last year, the year before. So I moved out 2 years ago, like right on my 18th birthday. I walked the graduation stage and then like done.
Yeah.
I was immediately out. And was still kind of struggling with the getting off of the hard substances. So I was doing the psychedelics to kind of let myself be okay with myself. And that helps with that, at least in my personal experience. I'm not saying that you should go do that or whatnot, but I was all the way out. I can't explain this to you because you're not from where I'm from. But there's a little city, it's not like a city, it's like a one street town. Like probably 8 miles out from where my car was parked at the time, and I was with a couple of friends out on their property on this one really long road that combines the two places. And I guess I just went a little too hard. I got a little uncomfortable with everyone, and I was like, I'm not going to drive home. I'm just going to walk. But I know this walk like the back of my hand. I was like, I drive this road every day. I can walk 6-7 miles.
Yeah.
But it's 3 a.m. and I'm in torn up Vans. And the road's bending and the cars look like they're coming at me. It's scary or whatnot. But I just started listening to music because it was comforting. Music's always been the thing that was comforting for me. And so I'm losing my mind down this road at 3 a.m. and I see an old commercial for the 877 Cash Now. And it just...
You're just like, that's a track. Yep.
I was like, I could like slow it down. Because like sometimes when you're on psychedelics, the time kind of bends a little bit and things also come off like off pitch and stuff. So I didn't make it that night because I obviously needed time for that. But when I had woken up the next morning, that was the only thing I wanted to do. I was like, I have to turn that into a song.
Yep.
And then, what sucks is that the meme came up like 6 months after the song.
Damn.
And I tried to hop on the trend and it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's whatever. I'm just going to keep making music.
Well, it's still a wild track.
Yeah, no, it was really interesting.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that story. I'm glad
that was
one
of my favorite ones, dude.
It's a really cool one. I wanted to see how far I could break it down, but then I was like, no, I have too many other tracks I want to talk about to make that the official list, but I couldn't not bring it up. So I'm glad there was a backstory for it.
I love it.
Hell yeah. But now I am curious to know, what are some of your favorite tracks to perform?
Let's see. My favorite ones to perform. I've only done a handful of performances so far. I usually do. Last year I did 4 or 5 throughout the whole year.
Okay.
And that's 2023. So for 2024, I've done 2 or 3 now. Tonight will be 4th.
Okay.
It's just opportunities, right? I don't want to go to a show where it's just a bunch of people who sold tickets to their friends and whatnot, because then nobody's actually there. Example, I had to cancel a show. I'm not going to name names or anything, but I live 2 hours from Portland, right? And so I was like, hey, I need to be higher up in the set list because I can't be there all night.
Yeah.
That's just not a possibility for me. And I'd love to promote the show and sell tickets and stuff, but I just can't do that.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, that's fine. So they put me in the 3rd slot, and then me and my buddy Harry Snow, we're going to do our collab songs on there. So Pop My Shizzle is going to be a number one. I haven't performed that one yet because it's just so recent, but I've performed it in the mirror for myself too many times.
Yep.
Yeah. I can see it. I see it. That one's going to be,
yep.
But for the songs I actually have done, 5 for 1, 5 for 1 is the code. People love that song because we're all from the 5 for 1, right? Did you see the music video of that by chance?
I'm not actually a big music video guy. Kind of
a
plot twist.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. Sometimes the music video misrepresents the song.
It's also hard to go back and forth between too many different platforms.
Oh,
so when I'm trying to bulk listen to somebody's catalog, having to go to a thing and see it just it's a little back and forth for me.
I get you. So 5 for 1 was one of my favorite ones because it's just it interacts the crowd so much, and that's my favorite part is when I can go down to the edge of the stage and say hi, do the little fingers. And yeah, that one's always been a positive experience at shows. And let's see, for one that's a little bit older, it would be Overlord. I understand why you like Withdraw. For me, it comes off a little too personally still in my head.
Yeah.
It's just something I'm not really ready to.
No, I don't expect that to be a performed song.
No,
for me, it's just when I listen to music, I'm not so much a words guy as I am a atmosphere and the compound of the song. And that one in particular had this grit. It had this just teeth to it. And now again, I
genuinely pissed off.
Fully understand why now, but it translated into just there's a presence in it. I don't think a lot of people who take that approach in to do that kind of sound regularly, sometimes it lacks. So it stood out for me.
So the predecessor, the predecessor to that song was Overlord, and that's on my second album, and I really enjoyed that one a lot more. And I just felt like it was a little more catchy, maybe, and it kind of had the repetitive lyrics that I felt like would have been better for a mosh pit or something like that. So that's one of my favorite. I do that one every show, but that's because I haven't made a song like that, kind of showy in a while.
Yeah.
And I want to say probably the last one that I like to do at shows is, dude, there's a lot of music.
There is a lot of
music. Scan them all.
Do you have a one that is a guaranteed closer that you always
guaranteed closer?
Is there one that you just is going to blow the socks off of everything?
See, I haven't really had the ability to have my own shows, right? I've always been the opener, so it's usually 10, 15 minutes, right?
Okay.
And I've rotated the last song. Usually the last song has been so this year it was Benzo. I don't know why, but the rolling deep in my Mercedes, they wanna be my baby. People just liked it. It's just it's just real. It's laid back. It's kind of cruising. You know what I'm saying?
It's that. It's almost like that Young Gravy vibe.
Yeah. I don't want to give too much. What do you call it? you can't tire out the crowd before the person who's actually like supposed to be there is supposed to be there, right? Like,
yeah, you don't want to blow up everybody.
Yeah, so I start with the excited song, right? And then that kind of brings the energy up and the engagement up so people aren't playing on their phones so much. I hate when people just sit there and do this, dude. This is the most annoying thing in the world.
Fair.
It's not that I don't like being recorded or anything.
Yeah.
It's just like listen to the song and be there for yourself. Don't be there to post it on the internet.
Yeah.
Like you paid good money to see these people, so at least do yourself a favor. And so it does, you know, the first song usually gets the people engaged, and the second song I like to be like catchy. So like Fangirl or New Coop, those two have been really good. Like the hooks are just there.
Yeah.
And so I guess we'll wander off of that for a second. I haven't done New Coop yet, but it's a song that reminds me of the other one. It's Spaceship in the Team. That one, showstopper every time.
Oh yeah.
People love that song. I don't know. It's just the beat. If it's just how it came together, I don't know. But that one is like a guaranteed I will probably play it at every show.
Oh yeah.
Like that's your closer, I guess.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was a great answer. And I mean, just given your intention and like the approach that you take to your music and stuff. And I mean, I guess even acknowledging the fact that you were usually earlier in the set. So it's hard for you to be like, here is like guaranteed start to finish. It's going to be explosive. Like the care, the thought that you put into knowing that your last song shouldn't be the one that wears everybody else because they've got a whole show to go.
A whole show. So,
that I think is a mindfulness that's really, really appreciated in music, whether it's outwardly acknowledged or not. I will tell you now, that is very thoughtful of you to do and is going to go a long way in the general sense when it comes to the long run of things.
Moving on, right? Yeah, when I get to the future and I'm doing bigger and bigger shows, right? You know, I don't want
it'll be noticed by the people who I think notice those kinds of things and like are the ones putting it together in the future and stuff like that.
Planners.
Yeah, they're going to be like, hey, every time this guy opens, it's a crazy good opening. Like everything runs smoothly after that. Like maybe we should move him to a different spot if he wants one, or at least you're always guaranteed to be somebody who's starting the show off.
Gotcha.
Because they'll know, you know, it's just, it's good to know that you are willing to play the part, I think, when it comes to being mindful.
So there's not a whole lot of area you kind of have to etch your own lane these days.
Yeah.
Because for a lot of people, I think, I mean, I'm part of this. So 2020 TikTok kind of really boosted new accounts. I mean, I have 10,000 followers for stuff that doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I moved into actually doing what I wanted to do with it and, you know, posting music and getting into that, 200 view jail.
Yeah.
So I think that nowadays, I think the short form era has died. Like, I mean, not like died officially, but it's on its way there.
Yeah. It's funny. I was watching the thing the other day, and it was talking about how the concept of short form became so formulaic that now people are just making it. Yeah, well, they're making it to where they're like, oh, this is what you need to do. These are the steps.
And then
the problem is that there's no purpose. There's just the motions.
Yeah.
So now it's like it's all short form and it's meant to be attention grabbing, but it has nothing to give you once your attention is grabbed. So it everybody's just like, nope. Yeah. So, and I mean, shoot, there's a video of some guy who like, he made no thumbnail, he made no like captions or titles or anything.
Just blank video.
It's just him standing in a field talking about like something he's passionate about.
Dude, that's been on the rise.
Yeah.
That's been on the rise.
And the guy just like, it's got millions of views because everybody's like, no, we want to be invested again. We want to hear somebody who just cares.
Right.
Because it's important. I think that, you know, and this is, again, something we had kind of talked about off camera, how like the intention into things, like the way that like.
That's the X factor.
Yeah, like exactly.
You're talking about the X factor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, man, now I have a term for it and I'm going to have to quote you every time when I mention it as that. But that is very much a good way to put it. So I think that we're going to see a lot more of that. But that's neither here nor there. I don't want to keep us tangenting off of things in general. And I do have I have two more questions. I'm sorry.
All right, you're good.
So we've talked a lot about just kind of your present music.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things for new music? What can we look forward to for stuff you're working on that hasn't come out yet? And like, how is it different or what is it similar? Like what can we look forward to on stuff that's going to be coming out soon?
So I've, as I'm getting more and more into shows and doing show music, I do have the songs that I like to play, right? And there's a couple of them that do more well than others, but I think I'm gonna start moving more towards into like the real life day to day, right? Because I want to do the music because I don't want to be somewhere 70 hours a week. That's what I was doing. I made good money doing what I was doing. Like I already made it that way. Like I could have just stopped right there and worked that job for the rest of my life and been fine.
Yeah.
But I chose the hard way for a reason. And that is kind of to your question. I want to get more into forcing people to chase their passions rather than just stay on the train tracks. You feel me? And so I'm not exactly sure how to explain it right now, just because it's a sound. It's not like a concept. There's not really like lyrics to it yet. You know what I'm saying? I kind of do everything on the spot. So, but it's gonna be more into mixing West Coast with Memphis.
Okay.
So I don't know if you've heard of Ramirez, but Ramirez kind of started out as more of a West Coast rapper and then moved into the Memphis, kind of like what I did.
Yeah.
But I like how catchy some of the West Coast songs are. So I'm working on doing a show with Shoreline right now, or not Shoreline, but half of Shoreline, OGZ. And so I've made a lot of West Coast songs that would fit that venue very well. But I don't want to just be another OGZ, right?
Yeah.
I have to put me into it. So I like the basis of the West Coast beats a lot. It's just they're the same.
Yeah.
And when you go and listen to Memphis songs, the basis it could be anything. It could be like for 541, I layered an actual bass guitar over the 808 and then just put kicks over it. And then like for Benzo was kind of the same way, but the 808 was just more strung out. It wasn't actual guitar. Yeah. So sometimes I like to loop in the bass guitar with the bass to kind of give it a more like funky feeling with an F and a PH, if you feel me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would expect more. So think if you took the Memphis vocal sounds, because I like to do the right around going down to the south side of the lake, like that. And I can sing it like that. I didn't know when I first started it that they pitched it. So I just like moved my voice up.
You were just doing it.
Yeah. Yep. And so they're like, how are you going to do that? And how are you going to do that on stage? And it's like, because my voice does go that low and then it does go that high. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It works out. But expect more those 3/6 vocal chops, but moving that more into a melodic space. Because right now I'm in a very kind of dark-ish area, and you know, negativity, blah 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 blah. Yeah. People go like, "Oh, you're promoting violence or this or that." I'm like, "No, that's just like what happened."
Yeah.
I mean, some of it definitely is a little exaggerated, right, for effect and whatnot, but that's just part of the art, right? Like that's just part of your art. Whatever you do, sometimes you just say things because it sounds good. Yeah. Right? Like it might not be meant in a literal term, but when you're really upset with something, you tend to say things you don't mean. So I try to go the same way with the music, right? I try to give that kind of authenticity part there. So yeah, expect the Memphis vocal choppy stuff, but I'm trying to move more into less of the trap sound and more into maybe like, I wouldn't say cloud, because cloud's a little too ambient, and I already went to the ambient, like kind of the ambient genre. I'm thinking more.
It'll just be more open.
It was just right now I'm two in a box. Yeah, and that's why it's taken me a while to get to the next song. So like the 541 Compound, yes. It starts with the dark, but I like how I layered in the overdubs, and I'm getting into using more of my natural voice and less of the forced blah, 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 blah,
Gotcha.
Because yes, I can talk like this, but talking like this on a mic out on a stage is really hard because I can't do it very loud.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it definitely forces projection down a little bit. But I mean,
it up inside of the compound, like I wanted to get more of like the attitude in there.
Yeah, a little bit of that, like almost like Beastie Boys-esque.
Yeah.
Like, theme to it.
Intergalactic.
Hell yeah. Well, I mean, even if you don't have like a specific, this is where it's going, this is what it is, it sounds like
I have an idea.
Yeah, like it sounds like you've got a concept, and I think it's going to, just like kind of everything else I've experienced from you, have something new to offer, and I'm very excited about that.
Thank you.
But now I want to take a moment and step back. Let's look at kind of music as a whole.
All right.
What are some of the things about either newer music in general or just at the very least new music to you that you enjoy and you find like inspiration and even just fun in?
Let's see here. Am I naming names and things like that?
I mean, you can go general, you can go like specific artists. This one's really, it's a very open.
It's a very open question. Yeah. So on a day-to-day basis, I listen to a lot of my own music, but that's because I don't want to bite.
Yeah.
I'm starting to realize that I have this weird personality trait where I start biting things by accident.
Mm-hmm.
If I listen to a certain artist for a long time, then I start biting them by accident.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that. I want to make me art, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I used to do is just listen to myself all day and then like pick out all the things I didn't like and then refine it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's kind of how the music's gotten a little bit better quality over the years. Is like I've just listened to my own mixes so much that I know what the problem is.
Yeah.
So I did start doing that for a long time. So I can't say that I listened to a whole lot of new music until maybe like a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And I just kind of sprinkle in the new drops as I see them. So I've gotten a lot more into the Memphis artists. So I've dove all the way back through all of 3-6's music. So when I got introduced to 3-6, I was like 9 years old. And it was my dad and his cassette tape in his truck. And sipping on this scissor, sipping on some. That was the only song I knew by them, but I liked it a lot. So I went and I found all the other stuff, and then I ended up leaking into Project Posse, and then like all Project Pat's music, and like the murderer, robber, psychopath, they schizophrenic. Like I like that. Like it's even.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like OCD or something, but I love the flows that like are 1-to-1.
Yeah.
Or they're 1-to-1, but like it would be like bar, 8 no, 8 no, 8 no, 8 no. I don't know how to explain it. It's just like kind of how it chops up like that. So I've been pretty much heavy on the Southern music. A big shout out to like Mexican OT and a big X to Plug, because they're both people who are in that kind of like Southern rap flow, but they don't necessarily do like Memphis music.
Yeah, man,
they're not stereotypical.
Big fan
of
Mexican OT.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I love his music.
Yeah. I think he's gonna be here soon.
Really?
Don't quote me on that, but I think he's gonna be at the Crystal soon.
I'm not like super into following people like that.
Yeah.
On my own journey, of course.
I think I just saw something that he was gonna be, and I'm like, I might have to go to that.
I forgot what the song's called. It has both Mexican OT, Big X the Plug. It's like all of the underground Southern rappers on one song. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
I'm the worst with song names. Yeah. I try to listen to like between 7 and 9 hours of music a day.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah, it's just the words kind of escape me when I come to like, oh, this track.
Yeah. And then for other new things, I like to go back and listen to a lot of the metal because just the rawness. I feel like I know that I've done a lot of vocal processing. Like I've done the heavy auto-tune sounds before, and then I've done the crunchy pitched and depth pitch stuff like that and chopped it up. But when I don't know if you noticed on like the Walmart Suicide tape, I'm kind of trying to bring it more raw. I'm trying to get more of like what I'm actually doing. Like I run the studio. That's what I do. Like I genuinely run a studio.
Yeah.
Like you borrow money for tuition, like you're going to college for $100,000 for something you don't care about. I'm in here etching my own corner, etching my own lane. And I think that, I mean, in that case, it was a diss, but I feel like it'll open some eyes. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to stay on the train tracks if you don't want to.
Yeah.
And this right here is a statement piece for that.
Yep.
I just got this 2 nights ago. Yeah, I don't know. It might be peeling on camera. I don't know.
You're all good.
But there's no going back now. I can't get a normal job like that.
Yeah.
It's just not happening. So it's like forcing myself into that lane. But
I think, like I said, the question is very wide open. So
yeah, I could go a lot of ways with that.
But let's go ahead and move on into the last question in this middle portion. And this one's probably the densest question.
The densest? Right.
Yeah. But, we've talked a lot about, your experience with music, the actions, the reactions, things like that.
Right.
But at the core, when it's just you and the music, one-on-one, what does music give back to you?
This is going to be a bit, this is like a steel ball of an answer right here.
Go for it.
Purpose. If I wasn't making music and I had to go out and just be that person, I wouldn't be alive today. And I think everyone around me knows that, is that I literally live for the music. Like that is what I enjoy doing, and I'm on an obsessive level at this point, like to where I can't even like have normal conversations without it leaking in some way, shape, or form. And it's hard for me to engage with people like on a personal level because I'm just so invested into the music. Like I don't want to hang out with people unless they're music related now, and like unless they're what do you call it, like super serious. Like there's a lot of people now that I'm kind of gaining a little more traction, especially in my area. There's been a lot of people who want help and stuff, and it's like it's so hard to tell them no because I have to focus on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And there has been some people I've helped along the way, and I'm not like one to go like, no,
yeah,
I don't have time for this. Like I'll still obviously have a decent conversation with you and whatnot. It's just like personally I'm feeling bad because I can't engage with it. Like I'm genuinely just not, like my priorities have completely changed. So, I mean, to all the people who used to be my friend, I don't really have friends like that anymore. And this is kind of part of that.
Yeah.
Is that I've gotten so far into just like, I love making music and I want to make the best music possible and show it to as many people as possible. And, you know what, when it's all over, I'm sure that I'll probably get over it. But right now there's just the biggest, fattest chip on my shoulder. Cause I was always that kid who like wanted to be that person.
Yeah.
And then I never really got the opportunity to be praised for my actions. So yeah, it's really like I got a problem with the planet. Like I'm just like a villain arc almost.
I gotcha.
Like I just didn't have a great time growing up. So this is me proving to the world that I came here to do something.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean by purpose. And that's why it's so intentional. That's why everything I do is so. And I think even sometimes when I have conversations like these, like my tone of voice comes off like as if I'm upset or like angry or something like that. But it's just the gears are turning so hard and so fast that like that's just what I do.
I would almost describe it not so much as a negative, but it's determined. You have a focus. You have a drive.
Terribly stubborn too.
Yeah. Well, I think that there is a process and passion that I don't think everybody acknowledges quite the right way, because it can come off as very like, you know, even almost standoffish. It can become as almost bullish,
right,
in the way that you approach it. But I think it's one of those things where it's like, to be passionate about something, it has to almost leak out of your pores. It has to be something that is almost infectious.
Is my music infectious out of my pores? Is it leaking?
No, maybe not so much to others, but to yourself. Like it has to be, it has to almost permeate your being in a way that like you can't stop it from being there.
I mean, I'm one of those people who like makes weird noises throughout the day. I don't know if you're like that, like vocal stimming.
Yep.
But like it usually is a song, a piece of a song, or a sound of a song, or like whether or not the headphones are in, there's always music playing.
Yeah, I'm the same way almost to a fault. Like for me, they're
distracting.
Almost, it's one of those things where it's like it makes it hard for me to endure certain emotional moments in the right ways in real time, because I could be having like the hardest, roughest, darkest thing happening to me, and there will just be a song
that relates to that. No,
nothing to do with the moment. It's just in that moment, instead of me being able to be present with what is happening in that instance, there is just a song that has decided to invade the moment, and it will just loop nonstop in that moment for me. So I get what you're saying. I very much understand that. And I think that, but at the same time, like, you know, like you, I'm very, very focused on my craft. I do this. I do 4 to 9 interviews a week. I edit 6 to 7 nights a week. Like, I don't go out to things. I don't
go anywhere anymore.
I went completely sober because it just kept getting in the way of me doing anything. So like, I haven't had a drink in forever. I don't do anything else really anyways.
I would call it California sober for me, but
I stopped drinking caffeine.
Oh,
I had to.
I couldn't do that.
It was one of those things where it's like, it would, if I drank it early in the day to get through the beginning part of the day, I would be too tired by the second half of the day. I wouldn't be able to do what I needed to push the extra 3 hours a night I needed to get the show out as much. But like, the bigger point to that is that kind of with what you're saying, the purpose, it's that I think you have found something that wants to get out through you. You know what I mean? Like it's not so much that you are not you without the music. It's that the music is not the music without you. And by allowing it to exist, you are in a way a conduit even for this premise, this sound, this existence, in so much so that it is not one or the other anymore. It is now become you. Right.
That's interesting, because now that you say that, like as an external observation, and then you're like showing the mirror, right? It kind of makes sense with some of the people that I've worked with, and they explain, they're like, I don't know what it is, but whenever you touch it, it's magic. And I don't understand that, because I don't believe in that kind of thing. And also, I'm not like super like, oh my God, my music's the best, listen to mine. Like it's an opinion.
Well, I think they're seeing your X factor. It exists regardless, but it's different for you because they are not seeing all of the steps. They are just
seeing my thoughts.
They're just seeing the outcome. They are just only seeing what comes from it. But you are literally Rolodexing your 10,000 hours to find the thing that needs to define this the most. But it happens so quickly because you've processed so many of the steps so many times that you're familiar with it, that you're just like, oh, it's this. And they're like, wait,
I can hear it.
You just did this, but in your head, you're like, based off of this and this and this and this and this and this and this. It is this.
Yeah.
But they don't hear that part of it. They don't experience that.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those cool little quirks about being either an artist who only records versus an artist who actually like does all of their stuff themselves. And I'm not dissing the people who just record.
No, there are some people that are studio only that are insanely talented.
But see, I'm just not that talented with my voice on itself.
Yeah.
I mean, some people might argue to differ, but I mean, I can sing-ish, but it's not mine. If I were to just sing a song on the radio, I wouldn't be famous. Yeah. You feel me?
Well, you I think also enjoy a bit of the performing of it, like not so much in the like you've done all the shows and things like that,
right?
You like the perception, you like to be perceived, and that I think that the people who only want to focus on studio don't have an intention to be perceived.
Well, I mean,
they're there for the.
If you don't have a brand, what are you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like there are some people like that's neither here nor there. We're gonna run it a different way for sure.
Let's get a little.
You have more than answered the question, so I really appreciate that. But now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna move on to some hypothetical questions.
Hypotheticals, these are my favorite.
Yeah, and for these, sky's the limits. The questions are all made up, so the answers are allowed to be as well.
They're all made up. Fun.
But this first one is pretty straightforward. If you could work with any one person, the only requirement is they have to be alive.
They have to be alive.
Yep.
Any one person. Alive.
Who would you want to work with, and how would you want to work with them?
I want a collab tape with Xavier Wolf.
Interesting.
Yeah, because although there's a lot of controversy about Xavier Wolf right now, a lot of the stuff that came out was years ago, and I'm not seeing it for that. It's there's certain aspect. So a big thing for me outside of music is vehicles. So I drive a car like that. And then also the music video was, I had a parking lot in my town packed, 300 people in this parking lot for a music video they had no idea about.
So they just all showed up.
They just all showed up.
It was going to be a car meet.
Yeah. And so that's like a big thing for me. And what I really enjoy about Xavier Wolf's brand is that it incorporates that into it. So like for me right now, the cars aren't too like in there, but like it means a lot to me.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get
find ways to incorporate it.
Yeah, find ways to get the cars to incorporate it, because it's just another big part of my personality is I tinker with the engines, and like I worked at dealerships. Like that was why I worked at dealerships, because I liked cars. And Xavier Wolf is probably one of the few people out there, besides maybe like some more underground people like One and Only, and who else really likes their car and posts it all the time?
I mean, there's a whole secret car world, especially in like rap and hip hop, that like once you catch it, you're like, oh.
See,
like somebody who mentions cars a lot in his music, even though it's super low key when he does it, is Tyler the Creator. Tyler the Creator is a big fan of cars.
Tyler the Creator is a very talented artist. He violates my ears with his voice.
Fair.
I don't like his voice.
Fair. It's definitely one of those ones you're either going to love or you're going to hate.
Yeah. There's nothing against him. I'll listen to him, right? But it's not my favorite.
Yeah.
Like I even have songs like that with myself that like if I didn't pull out the exact tone I wanted, like I can hear that.
Yeah. But more, I was just saying, like, the world of Cars, I think, exists in an undertone of rap and hip hop.
Yeah.
Not everybody understands it the right way, and not everybody projects it loudly.
Maybe if you do some post editing on this, you can find the video, because there's an extensive amount of memes about this. But Xavier Wolf in every song says he's pulling up somewhere, and he's like, I'm pulling up, and like they edit the next song, and he's like, pulling up, like, and I mean, I get it, it's repetitive and funny and whatnot, but he's always pulling up somewhere.
Yeah, well,
he's always doing something.
He likes his car, so that's a good narrative of his moment.
And then, I hit the clutch and switch a gear, now I hit the strip. Like, that's like what I'd be doing that to that song.
Oh my God, I don't know why I didn't say T-Pain. Huge car person. He
that might be a little out
he
of
does
my
Formula Drift, like, just, like he is active in that community.
I'm T-Pain, you know me. Like,
don't get me tangenting on T-Pain. I've done. You can go back to Suave the Jedi.
I'm on a boat.
Yeah. Oh man, that's such a. Neither here nor there. This will become a whole different episode if we let me ramble on him.
I'm a little too young to be like into T-Pain like that, but I completely like. I guess
new music is phenomenal.
I need to get on that.
Check out an album called Oblivion.
That's
came out.
Real nice name.
Came out in 2017. It's got one of the coolest tracks called "May I." I'm not going into it now. But once you hear it, you're gonna message me and be like, "Oh my God, Jimmy, I get it." And everybody, don't do it now because you're still in the interview. But after this interview and after you listen to all of Brando's music, go check that track out. But getting back to it, subsequently, because we just asked if you could work with any one person in the world. Who is a local artist that you're aware of that you haven't gotten to connect with yet, but you would like to?
Oh, this one's I like this one. Locally,
and we'll expand local. Yeah, we'll say general Pacific Northwest for this one, because you are kind of all over it. Yeah.
So I'm gonna say like Oregon. Does Northern California work or not? Are we gonna keep like the upper half?
Let's keep it Oregon, Washington.
Oregon, Washington. Okay. Probably Yeet, actually.
Okay.
I know a lot of people give Yeet hate because of the like he's a Cardi clone or whatnot. And, I actually really didn't like Yeet's music when he first came up, but he's somebody who's from Portland. I don't know if you know that, but he came up in Portland. And he has just constantly been incorporating, like kind of what you said about how you saw that there's just a piece of new something every time I drop something. That's also what Yeet has done. So the album 2093, especially on the track Breathe, I know it's the top one or whatnot. But when the funny thing is that when that album came out, and I heard that 808 slide he did on that song, I was like, this is the fucking hit song right here.
Yep.
I was like, this one's gonna blow it away. And then I also like playing that prediction game with like when artists drop albums, I'll be like, I think this song is the one. And I've had like an 75%. But the 2093 album, when he took a whole nother approach to his music, he used to just do the crazy ad libs and then like have somebody melodyne them or something. But I like how it's just so different. Like it's like electronic, but it's not. And then again, you can hear the and like as the songs come in, it just has a really good intro. It all comes together very nice. But yeah, that sliding 808, like that. I love that sliding 808.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that reminds me of something else I want to talk about, but I'll let you. Yeah.
No, you're fine. And everybody, you know what to do. Add them in the comments. Let's see if we can make that happen. But because we are running long, I'm going to move to these next ones.
Okay.
And for this next one, like I said before, sky's the limit, and it's pretty literal in this sense. But if you could perform anywhere in the world, you wouldn't have to worry about crowd access or building stability or power.
So we're just throwing the business out the window.
It was guaranteed to be the best lineup, guaranteed to be the best show.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be a venue.
Doesn't have to be a venue. It'd be
anywhere.
A place.
Where would you want to perform?
So I feel like a lot of people would answer that with the Super Bowl. No.
I think I've only gotten the Super Bowl once in 200 interviews.
Really?
Over 200 interviews.
I don't know. I just think the Super Bowl's kind of corny.
I don't think it's as much a desirable spot for like people to want to anymore like it was back in the day.
So I'm not one. I am a dreamer, obviously. I'm an artist, right? But I like to keep it like something that might be tangible so that I can get excited about it. So I'm gonna say Rolling Loud.
Okay, hell
I
yeah.
would like to headline a Rolling Loud tour, or
Yeah.
they do like a kind of like one city every year or something. But, you know, and then that would kind of open me up to the opportunities to seeing and meeting everybody. Because I understand that in LA, there's blue checkmark parties. I've heard about it. I know people who are in them, but there's like, it's almost like a deep state of celebrities.
Yeah.
And they talk about different stuff than normal people do. I don't know. I mean, maybe it is the same thing, but it's just like, it's almost like a conspiracy. But I feel like if I would have done a Rolling Loud and had, you know, 50 other people on that show, you know, I could get a little piece of a taste of everybody. Because, you know, when you're looking at artists online, their music only says so much.
Yeah.
And if they don't have a whole lot of branding or like interviews or stuff like that, then you just don't really know who they are as a person and whether or not you want to be friends with them, or like if there's any connection there at all. And so I feel like being in that kind of environment where all the greats are in one place doing one show, then that would be like the ultimate networking opportunity to like get my foot in the door, or 7 different doors.
Yeah. Well, that, and you just get to share the stage with so many like powerful.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's like,
just really cool.
That audience has got to be a really cool audience. That sound is probably going to be really dialed. Like,
but also like, I don't know, like some of the Rolling Loud. Oh, you're just like, you see Chris or Travis Scott's concert in the Europe. We're in Europe.
Yeah.
And it's like 100,000 people.
Yeah.
He's huge, like, and the stage is in the middle, and he's all the way, like, that's crazy. I don't know if I can do that, but
I mean, hey, that's a whole
nother level. Like
I don't think I could ever do it. Like, I know, I remember the first time I saw like a comedian do it, like a 360-degree stage.
Wow.
And I was just like, that would be so nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
You know, no matter which way you turned, you had your
just
back to
people looking
some of
at
the
you.
audience.
That's
but also,
scary, yeah.
Yeah, like, like, I've definitely played shows on stages, but I could not imagine, like, knowing there are people back there that I have to, like, get to at some point. Like, that'd be so nerve-wracking. So that's an experience all on its own. But then, to wrap up the hypothetical questions.
Okay.
If you could get one more album from anybody, they could be alive, they could be dead, they could have not put out an album in 100 years, they could have put out an album yesterday. Who would you want an album from?
One more album. Not the remaining member of Pink Floyd, but the First Gentleman. I think if he had a solo, like The Wish You Were Here, song, and I understand that he kind of went crazy and whatnot, but I feel like, I don't know, Pink Floyd just didn't feel the same after that, like, change in sound and what, I mean, not even really a change in sound, it was just kind of X Factor, honestly. I enjoyed listening to the way he put things, like the analogies he'd create, so like the wall, like this was him and then that's the rest of society or something like that. At least that's how I interpreted it. Yeah. And I don't want to get too deep into it, but if the original guy of Pink Floyd, and I'm blanking on names right now.
Again, I'm the worst with names. So
I mean, like, I love Metallica, but James is the only person I know. Like James Hetfield, yeah, that's the only person I know out of them. Or the drum or the bassist who got decapitated in the 80s.
Oh, Cliff Burton.
Yeah.
As a bass player, I do know that.
Yeah. That was very unfortunate. And again, wasn't the same. Or Brian, big hair, Brian. Actually, is that from Queen? He might be from Queen. I was
gonna say now you're just throwing out first names.
No, I think he might be from Queen. My bad.
Oh, good. But get back to the question.
That first guy in Pink Floyd, not his partner, but the one who is no longer with us.
Yeah,
that one. I would love another album from him.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. All right. And with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and start wrapping this up.
Okay.
What can we look forward to between, let's say, now and February?
Between now and February, I will hopefully have some sort of Pacific Northwest tour, at least.
Hell yeah.
Like up and down the I-5. Because, I mean, the way I'm looking at it analytic-wise, of course, when you're an artist, you want to play where you want to play, but you kind of have to cater to wherever it's going to be an even out. Like, I don't necessarily worry about making a profit, but everyone who helps me set up those shows, they obviously need to be paid. And that's a very big part of it. And I feel like some people think that it's like a clout-chasing, money-grubbing thing, but it's not. It's like genuinely, I don't have another income than this. This is all I do. You see that? You think I'm going to a 9-to-5? Not happening. Like, this is genuinely, like, these are people's livelihoods. So it becomes serious in that kind of way. But I'm finally getting to a point where I have enough sway in the smaller communities, and people are telling their friends, and they're telling their friends of friends, and that I could actually like hop on a small tour and do okay.
Yeah.
And do well, maybe sell some t-shirts or some stickers or something like that, and be able to stay afloat while also putting the word out there. Because when you work 60, 70 hours a week, there's no time for music.
No.
Not at all. And that's what I did up until literally like 2 months ago. So everything before 2 months ago was me not locked in. Now I'm locked in.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Well, definitely looking forward to that. For this next one, go and look straight at the camera. Tell everybody how they can find you.
I am very easy to find. I'm Googleable under Playboi Brando. It does not have a Y. It has an I due to trademark and whatnot. But you can find me on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube. There's both a topic channel and a personal channel. I don't really post like my own YouTube videos just quite yet. I'm just one person, unfortunately. Let's see. What are, you can think of like the 7 different versions of Spotify for like all the different kind of countries, because you know, like it's like banned in some of them and whatnot. But yeah, you can really just find me anywhere. I'm everywhere. I made it that way on purpose.
Hell yeah. And then any other plugs, any other shout outs, anything else you want to put on while you're on here?
You know, the one that I think really deserves attention is Harry Snow. I made this whole collab tape with him, and his Spotify was almost non-existent beforehand. And you know, I'm not going to say I put him on, but the numbers show. I'm not saying I put him on. I'm just saying I shed some light on his style of kind of music. And
his music carried the weight. You just made everybody look real quick.
Yeah, it was more like but yeah, he has a whole nother flavor of what I want to do, and I can't even explain to you how he does it. He's like, we're like the Bonnie and Clyde kind of deal. I'm not going to say we're the, you know, what I was going for with that album name, but you know, he just,
everybody go listen to him as well.
Harry's got a daughter now, and like basically a wife, and he still does and makes all this stuff happen, and his family's involved, and it's just, I aspire to be that, you know, because I'm 19 and Snow's 23 or 4 now. Sorry if I butchered that, Snow. But like, I would aspire to be that. Like, even if I hadn't made it for another 3 or 4 years, like, I don't want to just settle down and just lay flat and let that inspiration slide. And Snow's been holding on to it. And I respect that like so much, especially with all the things he has to deal with, like staying up with a baby and then like, you know, finding childcare and like it convincing.
No, it's a full-time job, and it's not one that you can just like leave at any point. You know what I mean? Like
he's like a crappy parent either. Like when he came over for that collab album, his daughter was in the room.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's not.
Hey, no, Jambox is a big fan of people supporting their children. There have been plenty of times that there have been kids in here just hanging out while people are doing their interviews because they're like, I can't have somebody watch my kid. I'm like, bring them. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
I'm an adopted kid, so I mean, I obviously feel for anybody who actually is a decent parent, right? Because my parents just kind of, but yeah, if you're a stand-up person and you take care of your children like that, then that's really the number one for me. But it's really just like he has all the talent and all the things that I do, and then he has a kid on top of that, and I'm like, damn, dude, I'd lose my mind.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Screaming and crying, I couldn't do that.
Hell yeah. All right. And with that being said, we've got one last question to go.
Okay.
But before we do, I'm gonna steal the camera for just a second. Mm-hmm. As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And one more shout out to the Brothers Apothecary, Raw Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, the final question. And this is entirely up to your interpretation.
Oh, okay.
But in just the whole of music, what is an album you feel is more on the obscure side? It's a deep cut. It's one not a lot of people would know, but it's one you think everybody should know.
So this one's a little no-brainer for me. I know a lot of people, I know you're saying like people don't know.
Yeah.
But if you go into Suicide Boys catalog, the Yin Yang tapes were completely slept on. And the Yin Yang tapes is what really brought that crunchy, chopped up Memphis sound to light. because all of 3-6's music had been in the garbage for a long time. And I know they sample them all the time. They had 40 songs that they got sued over with Juicy J. But that got a lot of hate because their audience started out with people who just like that dark trap and that like kind of not necessarily obscure, but kind of shock value. It's like, it's very, again, purposeful, but it's like shocking. Like, oh my God, he just said that in a song.
Yeah.
But it like, he kind of said it in a way that I liked it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the people who were OG fans, because they've had like a 10-year music career already.
Yeah.
And I mean, I went to the show when I was like California 2015-ish with my older brother. But I mean, it's completely changed. Their audience is now just a bunch of like, I don't want to say brain rot TikTok kids, but it kind of a lot of it is. And it shows because the kind of music they have on top is nothing like, kind of like how High have music that I say is like, these were very personal pieces to me, and these ones were not very personal pieces to me.
Yeah.
A lot of people just didn't like the Yin Yang tapes because it wasn't their sound originally. Like no one had really, that mainstream had dropped like a chopped or pitched song like that. But they were really just paying tribute.
Yeah.
That's what I was like all about. I was like, oh my God, they're paying tribute to the thing that inspired them. And so now I am paying tribute to the thing that inspired me.
Hell yeah.
So that's why, and I'm talking all 4 of them because they're 4 EPs, but I could consider it one album because they're all that one sound, right? And each of the EPs have a little bit of a different taste. I think that the first one was definitely the one that got slept on the most, specifically Casso Gris. But yeah, there's a couple other ones. I'm not going to get too much into it because I think that you guys should just go and listen to them because a lot of people just don't even know they exist.
Hell yeah. Well, hey, that's a super solid rec. I appreciate that. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get up on out of here. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Dude, thank you for having me. I know it was a little bit of a drive, but this was the best conversation I've had with someone who's like musically related, and probably, you're probably the most intellectual music person I've spoken to yet.
Oh, damn. Well,
you got to keep in mind all my friends are kids.
Fair. Well, either way, I really appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
But again, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
And this has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. I'm Jimmy.
I'm Playboi Brando.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.
That's a wrap. This is not a podcast. This is a show. Keep jamming.